I stood over the toilet and stared at my worst fear. I think that was my baby. Daniel and I were both 18, so obviously we were, But we were also stupid. We didn't use condoms, and I wasn't on the pill. We just relied on the pull-out method. I feel like every pregnancy cliché story ever. One day, I realized my period was late. I didn't think to take a pregnancy test because my period was always irregular since I used to have an eating disorder. So I just continued to brush it off, letting another month go by and still no period. Then another and still nothing. I was getting worried, so I decided to tell my boyfriend, but the thing is, I didn't feel any different. I had none of those pregnancy symptoms that you always hear about, so I just thought I was really late. Maybe I was in denial, I don't know, but I was going out of town for a week to see my family for my graduation party. But the weekend before I left, I started to have what I thought was my period. I put a pad on and thought, great, I got my period. Again, I didn't think anything of it. A week later, when we were staying at my grandmother's, we all went to my auntie's church and sat through the normal church things. After church, there was a potluck, so my family and I all went there. And that was where it hit me. Suddenly, as I was standing in line for food, I felt like there was something gushing out of my body. I stood there, and for the first time, I finally came to the realization that, okay, this isn't normal. I stood there for a little bit, struggling to find a way or excuse to leave. I started to panic, so I didn't care anymore and just put my plate down and ran to the bathroom. When I got to the bathroom, I pulled my pants down, sat on the toilet, and looked down. I suddenly felt numb all over. I couldn't believe it. There was just so much blood. I was just gushing blood and blood clots. I sat there and thought to myself, no, this can't be. This isn't my period. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I tried to stop the bleeding by using a tampon. But every time I tried to use it, it hurt so much. So I took it out and just tried to use pads. I thought maybe at least the pad would help to soak everything up and I could just change it when it was ready. But the more I walked around, the more I felt the blood gushing. And then when I was walking towards my family, that's when I felt it. I felt more gushing, and then as if something had come out, torn its way out. I ran to the bathroom again, pulled my pants, and looked. And there it was. There was this thing that was about 2 inches, or maybe a little smaller, that was just sitting on my pad. As soon as I saw it, I started to cry. I had no idea what this all was until I saw this tiny little thing on my pad. I sat on the toilet and decided to call my boyfriend. I told him that I think I'm having a miscarriage, but what could he do? He was like 2 hours away from where I was, so it's not like he could help me, and the worst thing would be telling my family. I definitely couldn't tell my mom or my grandmother. What kind of things would they say to me? I kept thinking about how they would be so disappointed. They were both very strict, so if I were to even tell them that I was having sex, they would punish me or make me feel terrible about a natural human thing. I just couldn't disappoint them, but I also didn't think I would have been able to handle their disapproval right then. I was on my own. I took a picture of it so I could actually see what it looked like because my eyes were filled with so many tears that I couldn't see clearly. I threw the pad away with the undeveloped baby and put a different pad on and decided to try to go about my day. And just as I was pulling up my pants, I then noticed that I bled through my underwear and pants. Luckily, I wore black pants, so you couldn't tell, but I started to have a breakdown again, so I called my boyfriend again. I told him that I had a miscarriage in church. I asked him if it was a message from God. My boyfriend just kept telling me he was sorry and that it was his fault. I hung up because I decided that I had been in the bathroom long enough, and I came up with the idea to go tell my mom that we needed to leave because I bled through my pad and it's on my pants. I put on another pad, pulled my pants up, and looked in the mirror for like a second. I couldn't even look at myself. I washed my face and told myself to just act normal. I went up to my mom and told her we had to go back because I bled through my pad. So we left, and as we were going back to my grandma's house, I suddenly felt a pain coming. It started out gradual at first. I was gushing still, but it was just a slight cramp-like pain. But the more we drove home and the more bumps we went on, I could feel it getting worse and worse. I wasn't just losing so much blood, but the pain was building up. Then, out of nowhere, I felt the excruciating level 9 pain of a contraction. I wanted to scream, but I was in the back seat silently going through the pain. I would just breathe and count how long the pain would last and how much time there was in between the pains. The pain lasted around 30 seconds every 2 minutes. The whole car ride to my grandma's house was excruciating, and all that blood made me feel so gross. Then we got to her house. I got up, walked into the house, and went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. I sat on the toilet and felt another thing fall out of me. It hurt so much. I felt like my insides were about to explode. And then I felt even more of the blood gush out. And when I looked in the toilet, there was another one, about the same size as the last one. I took another picture to get a closer look. Yeah, it was a baby. The toilet looked like someone was murdered in there. As soon as the blood flow was lighter, I got into the shower. While in there, I watched clot after clot go down the drain. I cried. I cried so much, not just because of the excruciating pain, but I really did want a baby in the future, and I had just lost two babies that never had a chance. After my shower, the blood flow stayed like a normal period, but I bled for 2 weeks. But after those 2 weeks, my body felt normal again, and I had no infections. My boyfriend and I want kids together, and finding out I lost 2 tore us both apart. Maybe it was for the best. I'll never know.
But I wasn't ready, and if nothing else, it was a sign that we shouldn't have one yet.